Welcome back to Energy and Hours. I am your host, Jill Wright, time and energy management expert, and I have a returning guest with me today, the Rachel Newman. I'm so excited to have you back, Rachel, because if you've listened to the podcast for a while, you will have heard Rachel's episodes. And we started our journey into sort of entrepreneurship and motherhood around the same time many years ago, and so much has changed since we started that journey. And so we wanted to come on and just talk today about like what's different, how we're different, looking back at what we used to do and offer and how things are different for us now and how maybe it's different for the people we serve now too, because they've kind of grown along with us often. So I'm excited for the conversation. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jill. It's good to be back.
Yeah, yeah, it's fun. I was listening to our original episode, and I think that was the first time we had ever met, and it just sort of like blossomed into a friendship from there. But it's really cool that podcasting can be a platform where you can meet someone who's so aligned and like just you become like real life friends with, which is so cool.
It's definitely really fun. And then for me, it's really cool to look back and see at that first episode and then how much what we have been doing is being more in alignment as we have done that podcast and done Moms Matter Summit and everything together. And we're still in alignment, even if we're doing different things from what we originally were doing.
Yeah, and that's kind of where it started was this whole focus on like helping the moms. If you are a listener and you remember, this podcast used to be called Grow Like a Mother. And Rachel has this amazing book that I always gift to new moms. It's like my go-to gift for a new mom. Um, and her concept of like mom me was so in alignment with what I was talking about and like how do we help the moms through this mess of early motherhood. Take us back to that and what that was like for you when you were sort of working in that realm of helping.
So I think for me, it was writing, when I wrote the book, it was writing for the me that I was at the time when I had those newborn twins. So, for context here, I have a now 7.5-year-old and just turned 6-year-old twins. And I had them in 2020. And as I'm sure we all know, the world was a lot different then than we had anticipated when we were originally planning to have a child. And it was a really, really lonely time. And I found some bigger struggles having the twins than I did when I had my first child. So I wrote the book for somebody who was in the same spot that I was at the time, where it's like I lost myself entirely in motherhood. We kind of were just wrapped up in this resentment of everything had changed in a way that I wasn't anticipating it to change. And just how do you get yourself out of that? So the book really came to be in the sense of I found my way out of it. I worked really hard to get myself out of it. And I wanted to be an encouragement from others who were in the same spot and kind of be like the big sister holding their hand with a little bit of funnies and just kind of walking them through that so they could get back to themselves.
So important, so needed, I think, for any new mom, regardless of what year their kid was born in or how many other kids, if it's their first or not, or whatever. It's always a new experience. Like each new kid brings a new version of motherhood. And it's always hard. Like it's never just I mean, for no one I have met thus far in my life has been like motherhood's a breeze and I have no problems at all. Like it's easy. Um, so I think it's a really important tool. I definitely recommend everyone go and give it a read, but it's interesting because Rachel, you and I were talking about recently that you've been looking back at that book and realizing like, oh, that's not me anymore. That's not the version of who I am now. So like, what's that like? That's kind of trippy.
So, and it's really fun and hilarious that you mentioned that because literally when I was writing it, it was for the me that I was from a standpoint of where I was not at that point when I was writing it. And lately it's been feeling a little bit disconnected for me because I'm also not at the stage I was when I wrote that book. And I think you hit a really good point there too, where no mother has ever never struggled in motherhood. Like there's always going to be a struggle. And I think it just changes as your kids get older. So now we're at a point where we have neurodivergence in our house. We have had more learning disabilities come up. And as we are navigating that, as well as just different moves and life things, the heart is different. And that kind of struggle is where I'm going to be working on the next book, is talking about what we're going through right now and how we are going through that. Because again, 3.5 years ago, Rachel would have never anticipated where we are right now and where people are right now, or I am right now. If other people are here too, they probably also need the help that I wish I would have had 6 months ago.
Yeah, I mean, parenting neurodivergence is a whole other thing. And a lot of people in my world are like finding out as mothers of their own neurodivergencies, right? And I don't know if it's, yeah, like we were just talking about
Same.
that with you and having some ADHD assessments coming up and things like that. So it's like not only are our kids experiencing these things that we need to navigate, especially for someone like you who's homeschooling a lot of the time, which I want to touch on as well, but like in our own life, trying to figure out like, well, how do we lead these kids, but then also how do we get our own shit together and figure out like what's going to work for us now that we know what's different. And sometimes I feel like they can amplify almost either as you get older or as more challenges occur, you have less energy to like handle the things like you used to. Like my dyslexia is getting way worse now that I'm older than it was when I was in school. Like it's so interesting and I wonder like, well, what is it is it just naturally something that changes as we go through life? And or is it something that like if you have less capacity to deal with all the things, what goes? Is it something like that that sort of like pops, rears its ugly head? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I'm glad you touched on that with dyslexia. And I'm going to ask you plenty of questions about that later when we're off air. But my oldest has also been more recently in January diagnosed with dyslexia as well. And now we have a therapist that's working with her with that. And part of homeschooling, our decision to homeschool, was also recognizing that she needs those extra supports and being able to give her those extra supports alongside with ADHD to really make her learning environment better for her. Even if sometimes it frustrates me a little bit, we'll be honest with it. Homeschooling is fun and also it is actual work. And part of work is being frustrated sometimes when things don't go the way you want, like this morning. But so that is part of it too. And it is really hard, I think, when you are looking through and seeing your own kids' struggles and it mirror either your own experiences or, in my case, my husband's experiences, and kind of not really knowing how to help them out of that because again maybe you don't remember all of the struggles that you had as a child and it's bringing up some of those things that you're like, oh, that's not normal, that's different, and just making you kind of question some of those things. And then that's why we went ahead and decided, my husband has been evaluated, he is also ADHD, let's go ahead and get myself evaluated because I don't know certain things about myself, and knowing them and figuring out what capacities we have or maybe what some of those triggers are and working through ways to help mediate them for myself as well as for my children can make it a much more ADHD neurodivergent friendly household.
Yeah, I love getting like as much information about ourselves as we can. I'm such a sucker for like a quiz or personality test or something like that, and I feel like this just adds another layer to the puzzle, to the onion of like who is Rachel, like who is Jill, right?
Yeah.
And I think one thing that I just want people to know, like if you're considering homeschooling or if you are homeschooling, like Rachel's a trained teacher and it's still hard. So,
Yes.
like, this is the thing about motherhood and life and growing is that it's not always a straight line. It's not always an easy thing. Like, there's discomfort that comes with no matter which path you choose. Like I'm having some discomfort with my autistic child who's in the public school system. Like, but I feel like I would have just as many or more challenges if I tried to do it at home because my patience is like zip, you know? And I don't have the schooling. So it's like no matter which way we choose, I don't think there's like a clear win. And so if we stop striving for that, like the perfect answer, I think that takes a lot of pressure off of us. So just if anyone needed to hear that, you know?
Yeah, to add with that too, it's okay to make whatever choice serves you in the season that you're in and
Yeah.
then change your mind. My husband and I talk about this all the time. Every single school year, we reevaluate what we're doing, or anytime that we get into a hard spot with schooling, or maybe this curricular choice isn't working or something, we change it up. Like there's never going to be a hard and fast line of you have made this decision and now you must stay here forever with the choice that you have made. Like if it is not serving you and your family and a choice can be changed, change it.
Yes, thank you for that. I think that's so true. We can often get stuck making a decision or choosing a path or something because we think in this really final kind of way, like this is the one time I get to make this decision and I have to stick with it forever and ever amen. And it's like, well, no, definitely we are allowed, and I encourage people to reevaluate, whether it be like every physical season or as your kids grow and phase out of like those 0 to 6 years into the next like 6 to 12 years, or just whenever life changes for you, if it's a job change or a move or a relationship, whatever it is, like the seasons and cycles of our life are so important to pay attention to because often what worked for us in one is no longer valid and helpful in the next. And it's okay to sort of recognize that and let things go that aren't working and look for new solutions too.
Yeah.
Needed. Yeah. And I'm curious what's working for you now. So you're in this season now of like your kids are a little older, you're homeschooling at this moment in time, and you're working through all of these neurodiversities within the learning aspects of schooling and for you for work and like household in general.
Mhm.
Like what's working right now for you? What's going well?
Trying to think of what would be most useful here for everybody. So, with kind of schooling being such an embedded part of our household, um, for us, it's really kind of breaking things apart as far as like while we are teaching, I am teacher mom, not mom, and then we have playing over here mom. Like we try to separate the things so it doesn't all bleed together and then become just kind of, for lack of a better phrase, just a chaotic mess. So
Yeah.
when we are doing like home chores and things like that, we have some routines and structures that we have there. We have our learning routines and structures. We have our travel learning and all of those routines because we do travel quite a lot as a family as well. We have dads out of town, moms at home. Everybody, we just kind of have different routines that we like to keep up for different things that are going on. And the best thing that we can do for our kids that we found in our house is preparing them for those transitions of things, is really kind of having the visual timers and saying, okay, hey, we are going to be transitioning to school here in 10 minutes. Here's the 10-minute timer. Or, you could probably use this too with younger kids or older kids and say, okay, we're transitioning to bedtime routine or whatever. It's just kind of having some clear marcation of where you are in the day and providing that structure and support, especially for people who lose the time. Well, there's a phrase for that and it's escaping me at the moment, time blindness, and they're very blind to the time, and just helping them in that part of kind of keeping it rigid. Yeah, with marking those different transitions. Sorry, I kind of lost myself in my own brain there.
That happens to me all the time. Not to worry. No, that's it's so cool though to realize the importance of transitions and giving those routines because as you're saying that, I'm reflecting back to like that's been the one thing that if I could give any parenting advice to anybody, that would kind of be it across the board through the like years of various ages of parenting that I've done from my own like my young kids are 7 and 9 now, but then I've got the two step kids that are 13 and almost 17. And it's like with all that age range, the thing that is most important and valuable is routines and transitions. Like those are the pieces we get stuck with. And so it's interesting to see like that still, no matter what evolutions happen and what seasons we're in, those things tend to still be a through line. Yeah.
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 And then I would say emotional regulation. That's one that we've been working on a lot lately too, for myself as well as for them, is figuring out how to regulate ourselves in those heated moments. And a lot of them happen around transitions in neurodiverse households, or even not, right? Some kid is wanting to play, and the answer is no, we have to stop playing right now. And just preparing them for that transition and giving them some words that they could use or skills to be able to regulate and acknowledge the feeling, and then also make sure they understand that yes, we can be upset about this and we cannot derail the entire day, and giving them the tools to work out of that
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
regulate yourself when you're dealing with it.
The tools are so important because like when you're in that state of dysregulation, you forget all of your stuff, right? And that was the reason I wrote my book is like I wanted to have all the things in one place that I could just like go to it when I was in that fight or flight, like your brain, you're not regulated, you can't remember anything. But the more that you practice them, the more that you do them, the more you've got visual reminders or like they're physical, like if they're a physical tool, they're there
Mhm.
available in the space. It's so helpful because emotional regulation is a tough one. I actually had like a bit of a moment today. Went to the pharmacy and the thing that I needed was pre-ordered and was supposed to be there and was not available. And I was on a tight timeline. Like, it's a busy day today. We're prepping for a lot of stuff this week. And I was like, now I have to go. Not only did I stop here and take half an hour of my day that I didn't need to spend here, but now I now have to go to a different pharmacy and hope that
Hmm.
they have it. And it was just like one of those things that's kind of spun me out. And it was like watching myself from a bird's eye view because every word that came out of my mouth for the next 15 minutes was really negative. My daughter's like, would you like a cat or a dog? I'm like, I hate cats. Cats are awful. Blah, 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 blah. And I listed all the reasons that I don't like cats. And she's like, oh, I think they're cute. I'm like, yeah, good. I'm glad you do. And I'm in a crappy mood right now. So everything I'm saying is awful. And it took me like, even though I could see myself in it, sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get yourself back on track. And so all that to say, tools and practice, very handy, even for the grown-ups. Even for the grown-ups. Yeah. Oh my God. Wow. Okay. Now, the other thing that I want to sort of pick your brain about now is like, how are the people that you serve growing alongside you, or like, do you have new people? Like, is it a new demographic of people that you find that you're working with these days as opposed to, 4 years ago? How has the evolution of the client changed for you in your work?
It kind of ebbs and flows. So there is definitely a distinct separation between the homeschool moms that I'm serving in that capacity, which I'll touch on here in just a second, and those that are still interested in mommy and asking me to continue speaking on that topic because that is still a needed thing. And what I'm working on right now in the background is kind of blending the two because there is really no homeschool evolution of things that I'm talking about without mommy. Like mommy is very much who I am as far as that's my history. Our history plays a role in who you are today. Like you can't just say, nope, that never happened. And I think honoring that and part of what I'm doing with the homeschool space right now, like that's never going to go away. It's still very much what we do. I still talk about it. And a lot of the skills and tools that I discussed in Mommy, as well as the planner that goes with it, the journal and the day starter that goes with it, more so than a planner. That's still being carried over and embedded in what I'm doing with homeschool. It's just shifting a little bit to serve that population. But I think, especially in the States at the moment, and I am in Texas for currently, for those that are aware of what is going on in the education space in Texas. And that's part of what has played into our homeschooling is that I don't really love a lot of the things that we're seeing, and it's not serving my kiddos. But at the same time, a lot of moms are not as confident as they would like to be in being prepared to homeschool their own kids, but know that, hey, this is something we're doing for deeper reasons than I'm just gung ho and I want to do it. Like there are definitely big value based reasons for doing it. And there are moms that can use tools on how to, one, be yourself outside of homeschool mom, which is just kind of part of where we're going with this too, is you're still going to be a mom me, but you're more of a homeschool mommy. And that is not the title of any of the things. There's not working titles at the moment. But I'm working on a blueprint to help moms create the homeschool that they want as far as what do you want it to feel like, more so than just these are the curricula choices we need to make. Of course, you need to follow the laws and do all those things, but really, what do you want it to feel like? What do you want? Same as you would set up your home. How do you want to feel? How do you want them to feel? How are you going to come together and achieve that? And a lot of that is modeling, setting those routines, knowing how to regulate yourself, and all of that. So it's currently I'm working on, I'm calling it loosely a blueprint on how to build that for yourself. What do you want your homeschool to look like? And of course, I am creating some other things that are serving my kids and myself in our homeschool, that those are also available in different places too.
Yeah, I love that because it is such a natural transition. It takes like all of the pieces of your experience, lived experience, educational experience, like mothering experience. It combines all of those into this really potent offer and support for people who like me. Like if I have considered homeschooling in the past, and just felt overwhelmed and frustrated at the idea of it. And so, but I'm very fortunate that even though our public school system in Canada is not great, it is not at the same place as my southern neighbors. And so I don't feel the pressure. You know what I mean? And so I'm imagining the person who's listening to this, like, oh yeah, I can't imagine sending my kids to the school system as it is now. Like, I feel like I need to do this for whatever reasons are
Right.
intrinsic to them, but feeling incapable or scared or not confident and having a support to be like, yeah, no, you can do it. And here's an example of what I do, and here are some things you need to know. Or like, it's just so important to have that, but then also not forgetting you in the process. Like, yes, the
Mhm.
homeschooling is a thing that we're giving you support and ideas around, but also like, how are you in this? What does this
Right.
mean not only to your kids and their setup, but like, don't forget mom, it's the moms usually who do the
Mhm.
homeschooling.
Yes. Well, and whether it's mom or dad, whoever the homeschool parent is, it is a big job that you are taking on. And it is often one, just like motherhood, that is a very thankless job. It is generally also not paid, but the life that you're building doesn't exist without it. And one thing I do want to touch on that too, there is so much information in the homeschool space already. It is quite literally overwhelming. And what I'm trying to do is eliminate some of the overwhelm. And instead of having you look out at all of the options, start by looking in to yourself, to your house, to your children, see where you guys are, what you actually need, what does your life currently look like? What do you want it to look like? How do you want it to feel? And really look to yourself, your family unit, how you want, because essentially what it is when we're looking at the traditional route of schooling versus the homeschooling route of schooling versus like a travel schooling. And, we've talked about road schooling. We talk about all kinds of different things. How do you want your day to day to look and feel? And I feel like that is where you need to start when you're building any of your lives, like whether you're choosing this public school versus this public school or any of that is just looking at what is it going to feel like? What is the experience going to be like? Do I like this? If I don't like this, how can I change it? And that's something I talk about too is I have not stuck with the same curriculum for the entire way through. So I have been homeschooling for almost 4 years at this point between preschool and then also now my oldest is in second grade. So combined with all of that for about 4 years. And this will be the first year that I'm sticking with a curriculum choice for the entirety of the next school year. So changing it up when you see that something is not serving you is critical, whether, again, no matter how you school, however your parenting is, even just as a single person, you kind of have to change things up if they're not working.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, that sort of speaks back to what we're talking about in the new season, buy new tools. Like, don't be afraid, full permission to say, hey, there might be a better way. And even though I made a decision or it felt like I committed to something, like, let's explore better, different ways to do this, or how can we make small shifts? Sometimes you can't. Like, there are some decisions that you can't change midway through something, or you have to see something through to an end date. Those do exist. But I think there's micro shifts that you can make and mindset changes and small things that you can
Mm-hmm.
do. And maybe outside of the particular area, right? Like if it's schooling that you've committed to a certain thing you can't get out of, like what can you do at your home life that would make things feel a little bit better there so it makes the schooling piece more bearable and looking at your life as a whole, looking at that pie with like different pieces and
Yeah.
understanding one of them is not all of who you are. Because we have
Right. And I think the mindset plays such a big role in that too, is you definitely have seasons. We were just talking about this earlier too, where like I feel in Texas we're having seasonal depression right now because it's very, very hot and we can't go outside. And acknowledging that and you can't change that. You're not going to change the weather, right? In Canada, you're not going to change that it's snowing for a good chunk of the year. Um, but you can work around that and change your perspective of it and change some of the activities you're doing and just working within what you have if it is not able to be changed is that's a big mindset hurdle that you definitely can work on.
Yeah. Yeah, so true. So much of it is that. And I think the work that you're doing to be able to support people through it is just, it's so helpful because in theory, we kind of know it. Or for someone who's explored this idea before, we've read some books or we've listened to some podcasts and we're like, oh, yeah, we know in theory what we need to do. But it's so different when you have a support or a guide or someone who's like walking with you through it. And I know that you're like still building this all out. You're setting strong foundations for what you want this to look like. And I think that's amazing because Okay, so if you're listening and following along and you're like, I need to know Rachel, go find her on Instagram. I'm gonna have her share her two Instagram handles depending on like which route of her work feels more aligned for you. But like follow and stay tuned because there's going to be something coming and date TBD, but when it does, man, it's gonna knock your socks off.
Well, thank you. I love the vote of confidence there too. It's definitely one of those labors of love where it's evolving as we're in it.
Yeah.
And I think you said something there too about there's so many books and different advice pieces and things like that. And, I'm still taking in some of that too and realizing things that I want to emulate or things that I don't want to emulate. And that's an important part of this too, as far as motherhood goes and just involving in business and obviously for us here at the moment homeschool, but just really looking at, okay, well, they said this thing, but just because they said it and they are deemed an expert in their space doesn't mean I have to follow it tooth and nail if it doesn't align. So that's one thing I'm considering here too, is how can I take what we have talked about, what we've built upon already, and serve a broad variety of people, but also kind of honoring that this is my lived experience. This is how I can share this information. And whether you're in perfect alignment or not, you can still get something out of it. And I think that's kind of maybe also been a little bit of my hurdle in writing it is like, I'm changing things as I go too.
Yeah. Which is so allowed, you know?
Yeah.
Like that's the point. Practice
And
what
I
we
feel like in
preach.
the writing, yeah, and in the writing process, I feel like you also as an author know the exact same thing. It's always an evolving thing.
Yeah. Yeah, the hardest part, if anyone's out there thinking about writing a book, the hardest part is like knowing when you're done editing. Like you could never be
Yeah.
done, but then your book never goes out, you know? You're always going to look back on it in a few years or even a few days and be like, "Oh, this is different now," or I wish like bring it back to full circle to the beginning as we were talking about you referring back and it's like there's always going to be things and no matter what we do in life, I think that we will look back with hindsight and experience and think we could have done differently or better. But that's not the point, you know? The point is doing the best we can with what we have in the moment.
Yes. Such a
Yeah.
good reminder there.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anything that we haven't touched on yet in this conversation that you want to talk about or share with listeners or make sure that is said out loud?
That's such a broad question.
I know. Sometimes it'll like invoke a right away, yes, and other times it's like, no, I feel complete. So,
There's nothing coming to mind at the moment, but I do know that we could chat for hours and always come up with more things. So
yes, we
maybe we'll
could.
just have to keep going.
This is the danger of the conversation between friends is that there's always more. But I feel like this was such a great reminder conversation for people who are listening and they're like, wow, this is a time management podcast. Like, but the thing I feel like that ties into this existing theme of the Energy and Hours podcast is like the energetics behind what we're doing and how we're flowing through, how our lives take us look completely different. Like my calendar looks different from your calendar, and different from the listeners, and we have different responsibilities and obligations throughout our days. Our days look different. Everything is different. Even our seasons are different. Like your kids are back to
Mhm.
school in Texas this week. We still have 4 weeks almost of summer left, summer vacation. But it doesn't matter. All of those differences just point to the fact that we've spoken about already. Like you have to personalize how things look for you, and you're allowed to pick and choose and not follow an ideology or a theory in full, you know? You
Mhm.
can mosaic it together in whatever way feels right for you. And if you need some support doing that, Rachel and I are the ones who are here to help you, along with many others. If we don't feel 100% right for you, that is totally fine too. But hopefully we've given some inspiration and some ideas and motivation to just be, I guess, trust in your own self and your own knowledge of yourself. That feels like a message I want people to hear. Like you know, you can ask for help and you can get guidance, but like you know, often if we get
Mhm.
quiet and we listen, we can follow the thread, even if it feels faint in the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a very good point.
Okay, where do people find you online?
Best place to still find me is my website, therachelnewman.com, or on Instagram at therachelnewman. Or if you're super interested in homeschool specifics, like some of the things that I've already created, there's a little bit of German spelling here, so we'll make sure we have it in the show notes because spelling is sometimes fun. My Instagram specifically for that is Happy House Homeschool, but house is spelled the German way, Haus.
Yes, because in addition to all of her other skills, Rachel also speaks and teaches in German. And
Yeah.
yeah, and it makes me laugh every time. I'm sure I've told you this, but my boyfriend, every time I say that we're getting together, he's like, the Rachel Newman, like the Rachel Newman. I'm like, yes, the Rachel Newman. He thinks it's so fantastic that that's your handle. I'm like, yes,
Well, Rachel Newman was taken. Okay, what am I supposed to do? It's a very
it's
basic name.
it is perfect. I love it so very much. Okay, good. I will have these in the show notes. And thanks again for coming and talking with me today and with the audience. And I think I'm certainly always inspired and sort of rejuvenated when I get to talk with you. And I hope that the audience can feel that too. I'm sure that they did. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's always fun to chat.
Yeah. And for everyone listening, thank you for being here. And until next week, keep on growing like a mother.